Joining us on the phone lines, he is the 1990 Mid-America Regional Champion, a 4-time winner in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, 5-time winner in the Craftsman Truck Series, younger brother of Rusty Wallace, older brother of Kenny Wallace. We are joined by the one and only Mike Wallace here on the show. Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolute pleasure to have you here tonight, and jump right into things. Pretty easy in a Wallace family, I'm sure, but how did you catch the racing bug?
Well, we all grew up around my father, Russ Wallace, who raced on a local basis as a hobby racer, if you want to say it that way. But, he won a lot of races back in the Midwest in the St. Louis, Missouri area, and Rusty, Kenny, and I just kind of grew up simultaneously together. We're watching our father race and being part of it.
Talk to us a little bit about running with your brothers in not only the Cup Series, but also the other series as well.
Well, it was very unique. I mean, it is very unique, is that I have two brothers, one older, one younger. Of course, Rusty is the Hall of Famer, a NASCAR Hall of Famer, and, as we call it, the more famous of the Wallace brothers. But Kenny, myself, I'm the middle brother, and Rusty have all had equally, I shouldn't use the word equally successful careers, but have successful careers in the NASCAR world. And it was fun to be able to do that as a family. I mean, there's just three of us in the family. Mom and Dad were always very supportive of it, and had a great time and enjoyed starting in the short tracks of the Midwest, St. Louis, Missouri area, growing up in that area, and, advancing on till 1991. I won the Winston Racing Series in 1990, and that gave me my opportunity to go NASCAR racing in 91, and was able to do that for many years.
Talk to us about 1990 and the Mid-America Regional Championship. What obviously opened the door to the NASCAR side of things for you?
Well, it's really unique you asked that right now. I was just talking this week to a lot of people, or at the end of last week, I guess you'd say, that were in the Winston, from RJR Tobacco Company, which that's how the Winston Racing Series was actually grown and developed to a point of what it was. It became an incredible regional series and segmented throughout the country, and RJR, of course, with the NASCAR tied to it, made a lot of local racers fairly well known to the racing community. And so I had a great time in 1990 winning at Lebanon I-44 Speedway and Bolivar USA Speedway. I won 22 out of 27 races that year. I think we run second 3 times. I mean, we had just this incredible year that it's hard to repeat in any standards, and that's got the opportunity to get exposed to people in the race world. Winning the Winston Racing Series paid, I think back then, $35,000 to win the championship of the region. I took half of that money. I split with my car owner at the time and invested in my own future. And I went to Martinsville, and I'm not going to say the rest is history because there's a very long storied line of being able to make it. But, I wanted Daytona 3 times. I wanted Talladega 4 times. And along the way, it's been a great experience.
So 1994 Busch Series, you won 3 of the 4 Busch Series wins you have for Owen Racing. Talk to us a little bit about your success at the tracks, Dover, Milwaukee, and IRP. Obviously, all similar tracks in a sense. Talk to us about that 1994 Busch season.
Well, the 1994 season was a unique season, and the reason it was so unique is I got hired the second race into the season by Junie Donlevy. And Junie was a famous name in the NASCAR Cup world for giving young drivers an opportunity to get a chance. And that was in the era before you had to bring sponsorship dollars and things like that. I just got hired on talent, which is really, really cool. Heilig Myers Furniture was the sponsor at that time. And I raced through the whole 94 season in the Cup car, and then so conveniently I was driving for Barry Owen with Owen Racing in the Xfinity Series, or it was Busch Series back then. And it was just amazing. Things fell in play as I was running that Cup car. I think I just got a lot more confidence and understood the race cars better, and was able to win Milwaukee, Dover, and Milwaukee, Indianapolis, and Dover all that same year. And I don't know. It was just, it was the start of what I thought was a dream career, to be honest with you.
You talking about some of the owners you've driven for, Mike. Learning more about you this week, I found that you drove for 47 different owners across your 800-plus starts in the top 3 series. What made you what made owners want you to drive their car, do you feel, or something along those lines? What made you so marketable to these guys in the garage?
Well, first of all, I don't know if that's good or bad when you said 47 different car owners. I never realized I drove for that many different car owners, to be very honest with you. I would have said 15 or 20. But the end result, the late, great Barney Hall, who used to be a famous name on MRN radio, explained to me many years ago, Mike, they're not hiring you just because you're a nice guy. They're hiring you because you have the talent it takes that they need at that time in their race car.
Hey, Mike, when you were running locally and then you stepped up into say the National Series or Busch Series, what was the most difficult thing you needed to work on to say develop your driving skills?
Well, I really think the biggest thing, and allow me to say that we were talking about a totally different era of racing than what we are today. And I was hired in the 90s to drive a race car because of my talent, not because of the amount of sponsorship dollars or anything like that I brought to the table. But probably the biggest thing you have to learn, and I'll steal this exact phrase from the late, great Dick Trickle, you first must finish to finish first. And what that meant is you had to learn how to race the whole race. You were no longer running 30-lap late model features or 100-lap late model features. You were running 200 and 300-mile races. And you had to get to the end.
So,
what did you do at the end of the race? That was the biggest thing. You had to realize that you didn't have to race every lap the hardest you can. You race aggressively. And, of course, as the years have progressed from the 90s to the 2000s, 2020s, racing has got more and more competitive, where you have to race harder every lap now. But that was probably the biggest lesson back in the 90s.
So you bring up the 90s and early 2000s. 1999 and 2000 brought you 4 of your 5 Craftsman Truck Series wins for Ultra Motorsports. Talk to us about those wins in the 99 and 2000 season.
Well, there's I'll use a phrase I used to say, and I've stolen it from other people. You can, in race cars and race trucks, as a driver, you don't make chicken salad out of chicken crap. And when I got to drive that 2 truck for Jim Smith, Ultra Wheels, Ultra Motorsports, that was a factory Ford supported race team with really good race engines, really good people working on it. I ended up going over to that team with the opportunity to drive. I was able to, Tim Cahoose, who was the crew chief at Ken Schrader Racing that I drove for before that, went with me there. And we just had everything that we needed to run well. And, we won out of the box at Homestead. We won out of the box at Daytona. The one great thing I can say, there's a lot of other winners since that point, but I won the inaugural truck race at Daytona. And I use the word I because I was the driver, but our team, Ultra Motorsports, we nicknamed them the Ultra Bad Boys, after that won the very first truck race at Daytona International Speedway, and probably one of the absolutely the greatest races that had been in Daytona in years. And, as far as the competitive side, the side-by-side, the incredible speeds, in trucks we were running 200 mile an hour at Daytona. And it was one of those storybook careers at the time that you won those races, and we went on to win races at numerous different racetracks, different sizes, and I don't know if that really launched the thought that everybody thought I was a great super speedway racer or whatever, but I had tremendous success at Daytona and Talladega.
2001, you got to run replacing Michael Waltrip for Ultra Motorsports in the Cup Series, which also ended up leading to you running and replacing Jeremy Mayfield for Penske. Talk to us a little bit about 2001. It was a pretty decent year for you, and you had a career-high finish in the Cup Series of second at Phoenix. Talk to us about 2001.
Well, 2001 was really a unique year, if I want to be real honest with you. I had never planned on running a Cup car that year. I was Ultra Motorsports, due to our success at Daytona and numerous other races, had successfully garnered the Dodge factory-supported program. It was going to be a new Dodge team. I wanted to drive the truck. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go race for a championship in the Truck Series the following year after we won Daytona. We won it in a Ford, and Dodge came calling. Literally the word factory support, it was a big deal. And Jim Smith, Michael Waltrip, had decided he was going to leave. He had an opportunity to go to Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, which was an incredibly smart move on his behalf. But the sponsor that we had at that time, Nation's Rent rental company on the Cup car, would only accept me as the driver. They didn't want any other drivers, and I actually tried to get out of the deal, to be honest with you. I wanted to just race that Dodge truck, but I ended up running the Cup Series that year, and we had average success, nothing great. But late in the year, I got a phone call with 8 races to go. I remember getting off the airplane in Concord, North Carolina, and Walt Zarnicki from Penske Racing called, and my brother Rusty had been with Penske forever. And they says, "Hey, Mike, we're going to release Jeremy Mayfield this week. How about coming and driving the 12 car? What do you think about that?" And it was about 8 or 9 o'clock, probably 9 o'clock at night, because we'd flown back from Kansas that day for the Cup race. I said, "Well, Walt, as soon as I pick myself up off the ground and comprehend the real offer you just made to me, yes, I would love to do that." And at that year, we were having little challenges, like, about that time with the 7 car, and they were wanting to do something different. And so we all agreed it was okay to make a split. And oh my gosh, you're talking about an incredibly fast race car and an incredible race team with Peter Suspenzo as the crew chief. My gosh, now I know why it's easy to run up front.
You talk about driving for Penske. You got to be teammates with your brother Rusty. What was the hardest part about that, if there were any? And did you guys bring a crazy competitive edge from each other, being teammates, working in the same shop?
My brother Rusty did not like teammates, first of all. So it was not the normal, what you would think, a teammate position. We were somewhat competitive against each other. I think I brought an asset to the race team, but we were competitive. We raced with them. We led races. We drove past. I was talking to Peter Suspenzo literally the other day, and he goes, "Remember when we went to Martinsville and we were the fastest car in practice? We led all the practice laps and we drove by Jeff Gordon for the lead." And I go, "Oh, without a doubt. How much better is that?" So, my brother Rusty, I love him. He's my brother. He's a champion. He's a Hall of Famer. But he didn't like any teammates, to be honest with you. So, unfortunately, at the end of that year, Penske Racing decided to dissolve the 12 car with me, and I just run second at at Phoenix that year for them. I was thinking that's who I was going to drive for that following season, but it didn't materialize.
So let's talk quickly about the last win you had, which was 2011, a Truck Series win for Kevin Harvick. Tell us what you remember about that day at Talladega.
Well, if you'll allow me to back it up, a week before that race, that I was in Toledo, Ohio, with my wife and my daughter, Chrissy. Chrissy was running the ARCA race. She was driving for Paul Andrews' team, which was Cunningham Motorsports at the time. And before we ended up going up there for the ARCA race, which Chrissy ended up qualifying well in 4th or 5th, and she finished 5th in the race. And the ARCA race was the 3rd series down from the Cup Series. And I get a phone call from Kevin Harvick while I'm at the racetrack, and he goes, "Hey, Mike," he says, "Elliott Sadler was supposed to drive my truck at Talladega next week, but his wife's supposed to have a baby. How about coming in? And he says, we thought about who we wanted to put in the truck. We thought who could win the race, so we're calling you. And it was like, wow, what this huge accomplishment and, nice word from Kevin Harvick. Of all people, he picks me to drive his, calls me first to drive his truck. Now, the challenge I have is I've just promised my wife that while next week is an off weekend, we're going to go to some island in the Bahamas or somewhere. We said, we'll just get a flight. We're just going to go and have that weekend away that the wives always complain they never have during the race season. And so the hardest part for me was telling my wife that Kevin Harvick called to offer me an opportunity to race at Talladega. And my wife was so cool about it. I remember saying after Chrissy raced that day, finished real well. We had our own airplane at that time, and we were on the way back to the airport. I said, hey, Kevin Harvick called today. And she said, well, what do you have to say? No, I just call and check it on Chrissy, how she run it at Toledo. And she goes, oh, really? That's all he called about? And it's like, well, not exactly. And he offered me an opportunity to drive the truck next week. And she says, I thought we were going on vacation next week. Says, well, you said you wanted to go to an exotic tropical paradise. How about the infield at Talladega? Is that okay? And she was so supportive of my career. We moved from St. Louis. She moved away from her family and her friends and all that to support my career. And she goes, look, she said, I was really planning on going to somewhere really fun, but she says, what's good for you is good for us. And we went to Talladega, and that's really just how it happened. And then we won the race. And there's this incredible, I call it my famous Carla and Mike picture from Talladega, and we both have the greatest smile on our face. I'm in a Realtree uniform. I drove one race for Richard Childress, and since Harvick was involved with Childress at the time, I wore that uniform. And my wife's two would have been to my left-hand side, a trophy in between us, and it's just like, holy shit, we just won Talladega.
Amazing.
And it was one of those races that was not even on the schedule, literally 8 days before we won.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's just an incredible story and a great way to wrap up. Is obviously texting you earlier today, you said you were on the beach. So is that what makes up a lot of the time these days, hanging out on the beach, or what do you got going on these days?
Well, unfortunately, I've been dealt a life-changing blow in the last 7 weeks of my life. My wife, Carla, who I won that race with, passed away unexpectedly of a battle with ovarian cancer that we thought she had beat, and she didn't. But I'm trying to develop a new chapter of my life. I'm with my children, which are grown adult children, but we're making the best of all things, and we'll continue to hang out at the racetrack. We continue to do my podcast, Fast Car to NASCAR with Mike Wallace, which is available on most major podcast networks. And I don't know what I'm going to do next, to be very honest with you. You guys have caught me the first show and first people I've talked to since my life has changed. But I am in a beautiful condo in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, looking over the ocean and having a good time right now.
Myrtle Beach, beautiful place. And Mike, we really, really appreciate your time here tonight on the show. Thank you for speaking with us for a little bit, and hope to see you down the road. Appreciate the time. Rest up, relax, and enjoy. And we'll talk to you very soon.
Sounds very good, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Mike Wallace joining us here on Miles on Motorsports.